ברוך אתה אדוני מלך העולם, שהכל נהיה בדברו.
Amen.
Oh my gosh. David's coffee's back. Even better, David Ola's back. That's what I've been drinking. All right, folks. We continue with our Mimer, our Hasidic discourse. I'm going to come to answer some of the questions that we had. So, winning the war against the Greeks. Winning the war against the Greeks comes with complete self-sacrifice. And that gives a total victory. That self-sacrifice is coming from Yechida, the core essence of the soul. And that Yechida can be understood and expressed. What does that mean? What does it mean coming from the core essence of your soul? That leads you to sacrifice. Sacrifice means here, going beyond the human condition. The human condition is that we're limited, defined by our mind, what we appreciate, what we understand, what makes sense to us. That's what moves us. But here we're talking about it's coming from the essence of the soul, and the essence of the soul is beyond intelligence. Intelligence comes from the essence of the soul, but it's not defined by the essence of the soul. Got that? So since it's coming from the essence of the soul, that means it has to impact everything of the person. So we can see this by way of Abraham. Avram Avinu. Pasuk says, because Abraham listened to what I said to him, right? Abraham listened because he listened. So the word Akav means because, but it also means heel, right? You know, the bottom of your foot, that kind of heel, right? What does that mean? In other words, because heel, because the giving himself over, even the heel, the most coarse and insensitive part of the human body, is sensitive to the will of God, right? What does the heel do? The heel steps on the ground. It steps on the lowest thing, right? You call a person a heel. Why do you call him a heel? Because he's insensitive, not caring. That's why you call a person a heel, right?
Without heels, it's by your side.
Huh?
Without heels, say heel, it's by your side.
Heel, we're talking about the bottom of your foot here, not heel with an A.
Okay.
H-E-E-L,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Not H-E-A-L, right? So, in other words, the giving oneself over is even to the most insensitive part of the individual given over. That becomes now sensitive to the will of God. We all have a part in us that, you know, is insensitive. That's, again, represented metaphorically by the heel, the bottom of your foot, steps on the ground, insensitive to that which is lower than it. You know, you step on things that, oh, this is not a value because we're insensitive to perhaps its inherent value. Again, metaphorically speaking here. Even though it's not just metaphorically, we actually do that, right? We actually step on the ground. And, you know, It says in times of Mashiach that we will, when we step on the cobblestone, right, and we are not thinking or connected, aligned with the divine, thinking words of Torah, saying words of Torah or Tillim or whatever it is, right? So the cobblestone will will cry out to us and say, "Bullock, what right do you have to step on me?" That's a pretty heavy duty sensitivity, right? So the point being over here, Mesirus Nefesh, giving yourself over to Hashem entirely, is that even the most insensitive part of me is also given over, the heel. And that we see by Abraham. He was that. Furthermore, when the yechida of our soul, the core essence of our soul, is revealed, it's impossible for the animal soul to create any kind of opposition. That's pretty powerful. What does that mean? If I'm motivated based on intellect, or even an intellectually justifiable holiness, guess what? You could argue that. There's still an argument, exactly. There's still an argument saying, au contraire. And that argument, even if it doesn't convince you, you know what it does? It cools you down. It doesn't give you the fervor, doesn't give you the devotion. It takes a little edge, or maybe a lot of the edge, off your commitment and your devotion. Well, maybe it's not the way to go. Maybe it's not the right thing. Maybe, cool down a bit. Don't be so, you know, uh, so positive about your sense that God's listening to your prayers. Maybe he's busy with someone else's prayer today, not yours. Whatever. Giving that by way of example, right? But if the commitment is based on the core essence of the soul, there's no negotiation here. No, God listens to my prayers. Is that like a intellectual argument? No. Is that like, well, I know because God, and I make an argument, and God is omniscient, he's omnipotent. Not to say that those arguments aren't correct, but those arguments have a counter argument. Oh, you sinned, so God's not listening to you today. He listened to you yesterday, but not today. Yeah, I'm just giving some kind of, and therefore, but if it's coming from the core essence of the soul, core essence of the soul is bound up with God and knows, of course, God's listening. And therefore, I pray in such a manner, talking to myself here. Now, not only, third point over here, is the animal soul not a obstacle to the core essence of the soul, right? It actually gets transformed. When the yechida of my soul is revealed, the core essence of my soul is revealed, then the yechida sorry, one second. then the Yechida. Oops. What happened here? Right, transforms the animal's coarse and selfish desires, and now it too wants to connect to God. That's pretty powerful. Quite powerful. Now, based on all the above, we can now answer l'chaim. We can say l'chaim.
Fine.
We can now answer the questions that we had at the beginning of the Maimer. What were the questions? Even though the Chanukah menorah commemorates the miracle that happened to the menorah in the Holy Temple in the Beis Hamikdash, which the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash had 7 lights, and the menorah has 8. Why? Because Chanukah is a revelation of self-sacrifice, of Yechida, which is beyond the natural limits of the human condition of intellect and emotions.
But the 8th day.
Like 8, yeah. This explains the number 8 represents something beyond the natural order. For example, the kinnor, the harp, in the Beis Hamikdash had 7 strings to it. While the harp in the times of Mashiach, which then will, the essence of godliness will be revealed beyond the natural order, will have 8 strings, the harp. That harp will have 8 strings. But isn't the Beis Hamikdash itself, the Holy Temple itself, a home for God beyond the limits of nature? I mean, there are vast miracles that went on over there, right? So it's true. The Holy Temple is the holiest place on earth. And the kinnor, the harp that was there, represents a revelation of the name of Havaya, meaning God's, the tetragrammaton, name of God. Nevertheless, it only represents the perfection of the natural order of creation itself, but not beyond creation. Within creation, there's a perfection. And that's what the Holy Temple was, within the natural order, right? Therefore, the kinnor had only 7 strings, because 7 is a natural order. How's it the natural order?
Creation.
Because creation was created in 7 days, right? The world's created in 7 days based on the 7 emotions, divine emotions, right? Emotions is the natural order of an individual, intelligence, emotions, right? Wonderful. So when Mashiach will come, the revelation of godliness will be beyond the limits of the natural order. And therefore the kinnor was of 8 strings, right? Now, look at the word kinnor. Amazing. The word kinnor, harp, which means harp again, right? Is got 2 words in there, or 2, you separate the letters. You have chaf vav, which is 26, which is the numeric value of God's name, Havaya. And then you're left with the word ner, candle, which represents the soul. So the 7-string kinnor brought about the lower level of God's name. The lower level of God's name, Havaya, is the perfection of creation. Lower meaning it's God within creation, right? That the soul, which has 7 emotions, brings about the ultimate fulfillment of God's name within creation. But in the times of Mashiach, that we will have an 8-string kinnor harp, it means that the higher level of God's name will be revealed into the soul, which transcends the natural order of creation. Transcends the natural order of creation. Now, this also explains why Chanukah menorah, right, for the holiday, is lit after sundown, while the menorah that was lit in the Holy Temple, the candelabra that was lit in the Holy Temple, was done before sundown, an hour and a quarter before sundown, right? Why? What's the significance? Because the menorah in the Holy Temple had the ability to bring holiness, which is the light of the menorah, of the candelabra, into the world, but wasn't able to transform anything that is in opposition to holiness. And what's the opposition of holiness? The opposite of light? Darkness, right? Metaphorically, darkness represents the opposite of holiness. Light is holiness. And the menorah was lit an hour and a quarter before sunset because the light of the menorah was able to bring holiness into a world, but not in a place of darkness, not a place where there's a challenge to holiness. Not there. On the other hand, Chanukah represents a level, as we said, Yechida, the core essence of our soul, which the core essence of our soul is beyond the natural order, right? Human nature or the human restriction and the human condition is that the mind feeds the heart and brings us to action. The mind, meaning my perception on how I perceive things, will be how I will feel about it. And that will lead me in how I'm going to act upon it. That's the human condition. And there's a perfection in that human condition, and that is in the Holy Temple, the menorah, the candelabra, lit during daytime, illuminate your faculties of intelligence. That will further illuminate then your feelings of the heart. And all of that will be aligned with the divine and bring you to act in accordance to that alignment with the light of the divine. But Chanukah, the menorah, represents the level of beyond the natural order, beyond the human condition, meaning that there's an opposite here, darkness. That's when we light the menorah, when it gets dark out. That light, that darkness rather, is you're able to transform it. The darkness in the light of the world, you can transform. You know why? Because you transform your own darkness. You transform your own darkness. As we explained previously, that when you reveal the core essence of your soul, the real you, then your natural instincts, your animal soul, your lower self also gets transformed. Why? Because there's no opposition. There's not only opposition from my lower self, my negative being, my animal instinct, but the truth is that animal instinct gets transformed because it too wants to be aligned with the divine. It too wants to be enveloped in the light of God. It does want to be left out. That's, of course, a much greater capacity. So therefore, the menorah is lit in the time of darkness, the Chanukah menorah, right? Because we have that capability to transform. Now, what we're going to see in the forthcoming is, till when can you light the menorah Chanukah? Which will teach us an interesting idea of the power that the Chanukah lights have, the power that our soul has, that when we reflect the Chanukah menorah, that when we reveal the core of our soul, that's beyond the human condition, as we explained at the beginning of the class what that meant, and more of that to come in the forthcoming class. In the meantime, we'll see you soon. Join us for Chumash Rashi at 8:40, where we will continue with the Torah portion of the week. And of course, Tanya at 9:30. Thank you all for joining.